good to go.
Boy, can I just ask a question,
Sure.
kind of going back a little bit, but
Yeah.
the slides from Lower Oak Street to High Street,
Mhm.
ballpark customers on each, you know, is it like 2,000 versus 3,000 or whatever, you know?
Oh, you mean as far as the meter, how much
How
we're
many
recording?
how many customers are dumping in?
I don't know right offhand. I mean, obviously, the Main Street portion is picking up all of the Oak Street,
Right.
plus it's picking up Church Street. So the Main Street meter is getting, I would say, more than 3/4 of what we've got coming into the town from the customers and from the pipes. Oak Street, you know, you've got Oak Hill and all those areas. I don't know the exact number, but it's obviously, it's a lot less than Main Street for sure, so. Yeah. So here I just showed you the connection, nothing here to see other than the fact that, you know, you've got PVC transitioning, this is that cast iron piece I was talking about. Looked like 1 full length of cast iron. This is the cast iron pipe as we're cutting out of that, connecting back into the PVC. And you see here, that's all crushed stone. There's a gasket that's been rolled or something happened to it here. There's an open joint around at least half of that pipe, which is, again, is just a place for water to get in, so. This we found 225 feet from the upper manhole. This looked like an old service that was abandoned, and what you see here is just rocks dumped on the end of the pipe. The pipe's not sealed, there's no cap, there's nothing, it's just rocks. So if you can picture this being like the permanent drain in your house, that's just taking whatever water can come in as fast as it can come in, that's dumping right into the sewer system, and we're pumping it and treating it, so. This is another broken joint that we found up in here, about 258 feet down from that upper manhole. Again, anytime you see something like this, it's just, there's no gasket there sealing that pipe, so it's just a place for water to come in. So the Lower Oak Street conclusions is basically, it's definitely a contributor of I&I. Unfortunately, I don't really know what the volume is, but I suspect it's fairly high based upon what I'm seeing there. It is, because it's a fairly newly paved road, it would be something that I would probably look at doing a lining on at some point, if the budget allows, sooner rather than later. The problem with linings is you don't really deal with the services, you're just dealing with your pipe. So if the people's services are just as leaky as the pipe, you're just pushing it off onto another section. But there's enough problems with that pipe, so I think we could probably cut down on some of the I&I and probably help salvage some of that pipe structurally, you know, to get a little more life out of it. So I think at some point, hopefully soon, we'll be looking at getting a lining in that. I am looking at getting prices for the lining on that, and depending on that, I might come back to you folks, I suspect, with recommendations once we see the pricing. So the other section I wanted to check into, and it was based upon, I know for years they had the roots in front of Bob Milton's house, those big trees. He had a backup there in '94, I think it was. Actually, sewer came into his house and dumped out of his garage. And the town, ever since then, has been going out and clearing out these roots so we don't have a backup and have another issue. So that was one of the ones that I had targeted early on that I wanted to get inspected, do a video inspection. And what we found was very close to right in front of Bob Milton's place, there was a service that comes in from across the road, and this was a whole broken section. Pipe is completely gone out of 2/3 of that main for like a 2-foot stretch. Just no pipe at all, it's just soil. So obviously that's a potential contributor to I&I.
Well, that's another potential problem too, collapse.
And it's another potential problem about something eventually giving way, falling in, and then getting a call in the middle of January saying, hey, I've got sewer coming out of the manhole, or I've got sewer coming out of my basement window. Something we need to address right away. So. This shows downstream of the picture we just had a minute ago. This is all tree roots. Now they did clean this last year for me. They want to go through with a cutter and they cut those, so this is 1 year's time that those roots just, I mean, especially in a dry year, those roots are just looking for that moisture and they'll find their way through these open joints. This is right, most times you'll see these roots in an open joint where there's just an opening between the two pipes and it'll find its way through. And this can also cause plug ups, which may have been what precipitated that first plug up in, I think it was 1994, that Bob had that happen to him, so. So obviously this is another contributor to I&I. This one, I think, is more of a priority from my standpoint because of the potential for collapsed pipe, or the collapsed pipe that already exists and the potential for plugging that would cause sewer backup issues in either somebody's house or out a manhole, which is a sanitary sewer overflow, which DEP doesn't take apparently to. So it's something we need to get on. I'm actually getting prices on this too. This was the first one I wanted to get prices on, but what I did was I've asked them for prices on the other to see if there's a benefit to doing both at the same time. So the third one we're working on right now, actually, and we're going to get into this real quickly on the agreement. 2015 and 2016, we cleaned the Water Street, flushed it. Found a lot of debris in the vicinity of the Grove Street run, which before Dan had left, he had told me about that cross-country line that he thought maybe something we want to check into, and I think he was right on the money on that. That was the one I think we've been talking about before, about trying to eliminate that as soon as we could. So our plan is to eliminate that within this month. I've got Brian Kingsbury on board once we get the word from DOT, and assuming you folks agree with the agreement that they've drafted, put forward. So we'll review the drainage connection agreement in a minute. DOT has sent that to us as a draft version. There are some particular things I want to make the council aware of in that agreement. A couple of the items in there that you're going to see, due to the first question DOT always asks, is we're going to be taking that abandoned pipe out and connecting it into a catch basin. And the first question they always ask is how much flow. Well, I have no way of knowing how much water is going to come in there. I mean, it could be 100 gallons a minute, it could be 10 gallons a minute. I have no way of knowing. So what they say is they put a protective language in there to say that if we connect this and it overloads their system, that the town is going to have to do something to alleviate the issue that we've created. And you'll see that in the agreement. So that's kind of a catch-all from DOT. The other thing they've asked us to do is test the water to make sure that all the sewer is out of there. Make sure it is just groundwater or surface water coming in. And again, should the catch basin get overloaded, couple things that I suspect we'd be looking at is the DOT, and they may be in coordination together, but the DOT would come to the town and say, okay, we need you to work with us, or we need you to upgrade the line downstream of that, or install another outlet across the street so it can make its way to the street. So, and again, that's if it gets overloaded. If it doesn't, if it's just a marginal amount of flow, there'll be no issues. So. The final piece that I wanted to bring you up on is Fairfield Street. I had been told back before I took the job with Oakland that Summit Gas had come through and they had done some television work on the lines, and one of the inspectors had told me there's a lot of debris in this line. So I was on my target of one of the things I wanted to get cleaned and check out. Same thing we found in that line. For the stretch from the intersection of the 5-way intersection to just beyond the fire department, probably another couple hundred feet beyond the fire department, there was quite a bit of debris, rocks, bricks, some big chunk of rock they pulled out like this. Probably some of it could have been when Summit drilled through the sewer main when they were putting the gas line in. Some of it could be from, had been in the system for years, who knows. But they spent about 4 days out there trying to clean this line out. So it's been a pretty tough line for them to clean. This is something I wanted to show. This has really nothing to do with inflow and infiltration, but one of the things we found in our run down through Fairfield is this is on the pipe run from Fairfield Street coming down to the plant, and what you see here along this edge is all grease that's been building up on the sides of the main coming from either grease traps that maybe aren't functioning properly or lack of grease traps. So this presents issues. Gary and I have talked about this a number of times in his office. We do have in the ordinance that, you know, you're not supposed to contribute grease into the sewer, but every municipality fights with getting people on board to make sure they maintain their grease traps, because it's not something they do every day. So it's something at some point I'm gonna bring to the council and sit down with some of the restaurant owners and start trying to work through a process that we can help them to help us, so we can work together.
Is it possible that could be decades old, or?
It could be. I think what's happening here is because the way I'm operating the plant, I store during the day and then I pump at night, because I can save demand charges by doing that. I can save about $1,200 a month just by using our storage and then pumping at night. And I think what we're seeing here is this is probably a reflection of when this is the water's sitting in here, because this was when they did this, my water was storing up, being stored. So I think what you're seeing is this grease has probably always been here. And if I was operating the plant like it was originally operating, this would just make it into our force main, into our siphon, and then who knows what happens there. So it just so happens that I've got standing water here, so this grease is building up at this location. So.
How do you get rid of something like that?
Well, you got to go to the places that contribute grease into the sewer system. You got to get them to work with you to do an inspection program for grease traps, to maybe make sure the grease traps are being pumped out annually, to make sure that all the restaurants have grease traps, you know, functioning grease traps. So that's something that really, you know, it's been in the back of my mind there, but we've been dealing with all the I-9. I didn't, you know, I've been asking people to do sub-inspections. I didn't want to be throwing this onto people as well, so I figured we'll deal with that in good time. But I wanted
think
to.
most of our restaurants have grease traps.
They do. It's just a matter of are they pumping them out? It may not be coming from them. It may be coming from somebody else that we're not aware of. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this up so you can see, because down the road, maybe 6 months, a year from now, I'll be coming back to you folks and talking about what kind of things we want to do. So this is the final one. This is on that same cross-country line that goes from Fairfield Street to the plant. This is a manhole cover that we found doing the video inspection. Basically, the bricks have all corroded away and there's just gaping holes. This happens to be in a low spot, so water runs to it and it's acting like a little mini catch basin. So this one and the Water Street one, we're definitely going to do this fall. So I've got that all lined up. So, and that's it. So on the drainage connection agreement, and the main reason I was here tonight, which I've given everybody a copy of here, there's a couple things I just want to point out on this. This is a draft version. DOT hasn't completely gone through this themselves, but I told them I had a meeting tonight, so they sent us a draft so we could look at it. Under Section 2 Drainage Agreement, Item 1, Preliminary Conditions, that's where they talk about they want us to take a water quality sample, which I'll do before we connect in, and I'll get that to Northeast Labs and approve that. So we're just going to check out for E. coli bacteria. Item 3 on the next page, they want us to install a backflow prevention device, which I'll probably, as long as they're okay with it, I'm going to put right in the catch basin on the end of our pipe. Just basically, they just don't want any chance of something backing up in their line and backing into somebody's basement, even though they're so high up that it'll never happen. But they want it in there for protection. So the most important one is on that third page, and that is under the termination breach of conditions. It's a bold section. This is the one that says if Maine DOT determines the highway drainage system cannot handle the excess water due to the new connection, the town must either disconnect from the storm drain or upgrade the highway drainage system to accommodate the excess flowage. So it's kind of a catch-all that because we don't know how much water we're talking about, it's a safety precaution from that standpoint. So
Do you anticipate this being a problem?
I don't, but I can't guarantee it. So I think it's acting like a permanent drain, so it'd be, it's like a big permanent drain on somebody's house, only it's running the full cross-country run up through there. So my guess is it's it's a steady flow of water, it's not like a big surge. So I don't think that's gonna be an issue, but it's an educated guess.
You got any wild guess what it might cost to upgrade the highway drainage system if this is a problem?
I don't think we do that. I think there's right across the street from this catch basin, there's like almost like a little natural drainage way between two facilities that I think we would look to outlet a pipe across the street there.
Oh,
So I think it would just be a matter of putting an outlet pipe and going right to the other side of Water Street if we had to. So I don't think the cost would be extreme.
I think that this certainly would be one of Boyd's low-hanging fruits, and this would be a big win for us if we can resolve this. Boyd, how big is the pipe that we're talking about jumping into?
It's either a 6 or an 8-inch pipe.
That's what the state has, and we're gonna dump into their 6 or 8.
Oh, there's a 12-inch. Ours, we think, is a 6. It's definitely a 6, potentially an 8. So, but again, if it's not flowing full bore, I mean, it's more like I think it's acting like a French permanent drain that just basically is groundwater seeping into it, and groundwater's only gonna come as fast as it can come through the ground, so you're fairly limited in that. The only caveat to that is if there's a open area that's acting like a catch basin, we could get a surge of water. But the good thing about that is if with it being in the catch basin, I'm gonna be able to monitor that. And I plan on monitoring because I wanna see how much we benefited by removing it. So if I can monitor that during the spring runoff season, kind of watching on high storms, I can gauge well in advance of anything happening that we need to deal with, so. I plan on doing that. Like I said, usually there's not a lot of ways that you can gauge on how much did you remove. This is one chance where we can actually project how much we remove from the system, so I want to take advantage of that, so.
So what I'm looking for is a motion to accept signing this agreement with MDOT so that we can get moving on this. This is something that we want to get done in the next couple of weeks, correct?
Next week if we can, yep.
And,
I'd make a motion, we sign this agreement between Oakland and DOT so we can get this work done.
second, Mark?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Good presentation, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Moving on to the manager's report.
Thank you. Just want to advise you that the police department's Halloween parade was well attended, and all the hosts and dolphins had a great time. I heard that the business committee was certainly involved in this. I wasn't able to attend it because I had my grandkids that went a different direction. But Chief, I don't know if you can expand on that while you're here. There's quite a few people.
I think you told the story, yeah, it was very well attended, it went very smoothly, and there were a lot of happy people. I know Dane was there. So,
Yeah.
I thought it was a little cold.
yeah, it was a little cold. It wasn't too bad in the car with the heater on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You would have walked with us rather than stood there.
I was sitting there shaking hands.
I will say it was very well attended, and big crowd, and
Awesome.
on every intersection, there was somebody dressed up like an Oakland policeman. You know, directing traffic and-
Some of them were pretty scruffy looking, I'll tell you that.
But it was great to see the police cruisers out there holding the traffic up. The kids could walk on the street, and there was no traffic to worry about, and it was excellent, I think.
It went very well.
Kids had a blast.
Yeah.
Certainly a keeper for the event, that's for sure.
Yeah.
A little update on Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know if anybody's been up by it lately, but the foundation is going in, so that's moving. They're planning on being up full steam next spring. All built, road diet in place, 2 lanes on K and D on the upper end. So it's gonna be an interesting experience.
Can you, or do you have the complete route that DOT, we talked about going from 4 lanes to 3 lanes, and that was gonna start, we didn't know where, whether it was gonna be 4, it was gonna end, we didn't know where. Have they actually come up with a plan for what that's gonna look like?
It's gonna start pretty much in front of Ray Haskell Ford's. And it's gonna run all the way past the upper end of Swan Hill Road, down around the corner, probably another 150 yards, and it's gonna go back into 4 lanes at that point. So it's gonna go past Thirsty Mule. It's gonna be on that.
So at the lower end of Swan Hill Road is where it may,
Yeah, it's gonna be a transition point, I believe, right there in that.
Almost right about where my place is.
yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
along the side of your place.
Yeah.
And if it works well, there's no reason why we can't continue that all the way down over there.
When do they anticipate doing that?
That has to be completed before they can open their shop. So if they're planning on opening their shop in the spring, and this is gonna be done between now and then.
Is that something they're likely to do in the fall before snow, or is that something?
I talked with David Allen, and David told me they're just waiting on them right now. And so depending on when they plan on getting this thing up and going is when the DOT is gonna come and do the resurfacing of the road. They're gonna grind out the white marks and yellow marks and repaint it.
But they just painted last week.
Yeah.
Yes.
They just painted it
Last
last
The
week?
yellow line, yeah.
I know, yeah, the white line.
They did white line, I saw the yellow.
My guess is they wouldn't be planning on doing it this winter if they just
No, they're
painted
gonna,
the line.
it's probably gonna be a springtime project.
It probably doesn't take all that long, so it's probably something within a week they'll have it done.
In the store, they're not planning on opening the store until the spring. But they're making good progress on that. I actually have two add-ons. One is a letter from Central Maine Road Council, I believe that I gave all of you a copy. And they are asking for a support once again this year. The price is increased to $20,096.18 for 2017, if Oakland chooses to go with that. And Kim is looking forward to my response of this letter. And I didn't know if this is something that you would like to ponder, mull over for a while, or if you would like to make a decision.
I attended their annual meeting last week. It was very interesting. Maybe our budgetary advisory committee should be looking at it.
My only thoughts on this is that we've done pretty well without it. And $20,000 coming out of our budget, or going back into our budget, has to come from somewhere. And, they knew how we stood last year. And we made it quite clear that if they could bring something to the table to show us what they're able to do for Oakland, then it would be easier for me to present this to the council and everybody else to show them what they're doing.
From the meeting, they seem to have more members. They also seem to have another revenue source in the foreign trade zone. They have one client that they're bringing some money in. So I'm not sure if the 20,000 is negotiable. I just think we should listen to them.
And where are they gonna put that business? If it's, if it's a foreign trade zone, where are they gonna put that business?
A foreign trade zone means that any company that combines an American product with an international product can get a tax advantage. Even, there's probably a dozen different companies in or around Oakland that could benefit, including the Budweiser distribution center. I just think we should listen to them. I'm not.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I knew what your answer would be. I was just hoping you to elaborate, because some people don't realize what the foreign trade zone.
So you
Gives us.
suggested to hold this up for budget process and to bring it up for discussion during that period of time, or?
I think the budget committee would.
They don't assemble until just January, correct? That's when we're assembling.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, And last year, when I went out there and they were talking to me, they were saying, and I told them basically the same thing, is that don't tell me what you're gonna do, show me what you're gonna do, and then it might, be a little bit easier to talk to you. And I quite often feel that's just another, almost like a third-party request that I hate so much, just an overlapping and another burden for the town's taxpayers. I don't know if we want to do that, but we ought to listen to them. I have no problem listening to anybody as long as, but again, what can you do? It's not, don't tell me, just see it. Am I far off, Don?
I think we definitely should have them present. I think it might be appropriate if, not that we would necessarily make a decision, that we would have a joint meeting with the Budget Advisory Committee prior to our regular cycle. And maybe just have them come in and do a presentation on this one item at that point, And it would be with the reality that, you know, we're not gonna make a final decision probably until the budget time anyway, because to put 20,000 in there, and then get to that time and the budget advisory committee says, no, we don't want it, or we say we don't want it, it might be premature. So I would, off the cuff, think that, can you speak on behalf of budget advisory committee?
I'm just a small member way down.
No,
I'm
I'm just-
actually not on the budget advisory committee.
Right, no, I know.
No, but no, I would agree, I think it should be brought up before
Right.
the budget committee, and my only other part to put into it would be, they're putting a new exit off the Trafton Road, they're pushing hard for business out on that end of Waterville. So is your 20,000 gonna go to helping them put business on the other side of Waterville?
You know, and the budget advisory committee is very effective holding our feet to the fire. And for us to increase that budget by 20,000, they're gonna expect that to come from someplace.
Yeah, they're gonna wanna know what it's coming
And I'm
from.
gonna be honest with you, we have needs. You know, I mean, we have we have departments that have needs, and I just, you know, and just to add another frosting to that cake is, we're gonna have almost $14 million worth of new construction this year versus with new housing starts and commercial properties. And this is probably gonna be one of the biggest years that Oakland's had for a long time. You know, so Oakland is doing well right now. But I will certainly call a meeting together and get our budget advisory committee gathered, and we can hold it right here, and we can discuss this, and I'll call it Garvin and have him come over and do his thing.
Was you had something else?
My thought going back onto it is, we're nitpicking how much we're paying them, and we can put a finger on what they're doing for a job. We're gonna give them $20,000 for what?
And I think that's pretty much what we've told them before, that, and Gary mentioned it already, show us something that you're doing for us, and we can consider this pretty strongly, but, you know, for ideas that don't do anything for us,
Well, I'm just saying, if we got 20,000 to throw out, I'm sure these two would come up with something to do with it.
they catch every dog
You
in
know,
town.
that's what I'm saying, we're nitpicking how much we're paying them and talking about giving 20,000 that we wouldn't be able to put a finger on where it's going.
We could always ask for their president to come in instead of Darvin, Chris Dobbs.
Yeah, Kim? Yeah, this letter's from Kim.
Yeah, Chris is the president, though, I think.
Okay. So what I'll do is, what about having our next council meeting to invite our budget advisory committee for that next meeting? And we'll invite the growth council over to do that. What do you think about that? What if we make it for the first part of December?
Fine.
Okay, first weekend of December. That'll give everybody time to go. Perfect. I will take care of that. And I have one last item on my agenda, and you all have a contract in front of you for paint care. As you know, we have a transfer station steering committee that's been assembled, and we've been working hard to make things more efficient at the transfer station, and along with that, to offer new services for taxpayers in Oakland. One of the things that Dana's part of this committee, and Dana, please speak up if you have anything you want to add. One of the things we discovered is a lot of these other transfer stations are offering paint take-back programs, which Oakland does not offer. All of us have paint cans in our house that half full, they're all dried up, we can't get rid of them unless we throw them in a garbage bag and throw them in the transfer station. This is a program that's offered that costs the town absolutely nothing. What they do is they provide training for our crew up at the transfer station. They provide the material for us to be able to handle the paint safely and store it, and they pick it up free of charge. So there's absolutely zero cost to the taxpayers in Oakland, and the benefit is we offer one more service that we don't currently offer. And I can tell you right now that most of the people, or some of the people, I shouldn't say most, would probably take that paint can, put it in a bag of garbage, tie it up, bring it up at the transfer station and set it up there. And everybody knows that some paints are highly toxic. And I think it's a safe way to dispose it, and I think that it'll get used. I know Skowhegan, we toured them, and it's pretty popular up there.
Some other ones are doing it too. And this is one of, some ideas that Daniel's got out there to try to take some of the things that we don't normally take. Rather than people keep coming in, we don't take that home with you, we probably get it back later. So Daniel's trying to look at some of these things that get thrown in the municipal solid waste and don't properly get taken care of. And this is probably one of them, and this is gonna be free. Because they come and get the paint, they give us